The last train home. The night air at the station was crisp, filled with the faint hum of departing trains. Emma clutched her suitcase, glancing at the clock. 10 minutes until the last train. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry, but her chest ached with unshed tears. Emma. She froze. That voice, low, steady, familiar. Turning, she saw Daniel standing a few steps away, breathless as if he had run all the way here. His hair was damp with sweat, and his eyes carried the urgency of someone about to lose everything. "You weren't going to say goodbye?" he asked softly. Emma shook her head. "Goodbyes make things harder. And you know I have to leave." Daniel stepped closer. "I know what you think, that distance will ruin us. But I don't care if you're 2 hours away or 2 continents. I don't care if I have to wait weeks to see you. I don't want this to end before it even begins." Her heart twisted. She had spent weeks convincing herself that leaving for her new job was the right choice. Love, she told herself, could wait. But standing there, with the man who had made every ordinary day extraordinary, she felt her resolve falter. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What if it doesn't work? What if?" He reached for her hand, warm and firm. "What if it does? What if we're stronger than the miles between us?" For a moment, the station disappeared, the announcements, the echo of footsteps, the whistle of the incoming train. All that existed was his gaze, steady and full of hope. The train screeched to a halt behind her. Doors slid open. Her future waited there, safe and certain. But so did Daniel, with all his unpredictability, his laughter, his quiet devotion. Emma let out a shaky breath, then dropped her suitcase. "I don't want safe," she said, tears finally spilling. "I want you." Daniel pulled her into his arms just as the train's doors closed again. The sound of departure faded into the night, leaving only the two of them, hearts pressed together, choosing love over distance. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt she was exactly where she belonged. A promise beneath the stars. Lena had always believed that love was something fragile, something that slipped away when life grew too heavy. But when she met Daniel one summer night at the University Observatory, everything changed. She was sketching the moon through her telescope when he approached, holding a notebook filled with constellations. His smile was quiet, his voice soft, yet his presence carried warmth that wrapped around her like a blanket. "Do you ever feel," he asked, pointing to the sky, "that the stars are just promises waiting to be kept?" She laughed at first, but his words stayed with her. That night turned into weeks of midnight walks, coffee-stained notebooks, and whispered dreams under the campus oak tree. Slowly, Lena found herself opening up, sharing fears, hopes, and the scars she thought no one would ever care to see. Daniel listened to everything, never rushing, never judging. He once held her hand as she cried, whispering, "You don't have to be perfect for me to stay." And in that moment, she realized she was no longer afraid of love. But life, as always, tested them. After graduation, Daniel received an offer abroad, 3 years of research he couldn't refuse. They stood at the train station, silence stretching between them, broken only by the weight of unspoken words. 3 years, Lena whispered, clutching his hand. 3 years, he promised, pressing a small star-shaped pendant into her palm. "Every night you see the stars, remember, I'm looking at them too." Time was cruel but not unkind. Letters became their lifeline, ink-stained pages filled with stories, laughter, and the ache of distance. Lena kept his pendant close, each night tracing its edges while whispering to the sky. And then, one autumn evening, as the leaves painted the town gold, Lena returned to the oak tree. She looked up at the stars, just as she had years ago, and whispered, "Daniel, come back soon." "Already here," a familiar voice replied. She turned, heart racing, to see him standing there, tired, older, but still carrying that same gentle smile. He opened his arms, and she ran into them, the world falling away. "I kept my promise," he murmured against her hair. And beneath the endless sky, Lena finally understood, love wasn't fragile. It was eternal, written in the stars. The platform was almost empty that evening, the air filled with the low hum of the city winding down. Emma sat on a wooden bench, clutching a book she hadn't read a single page of. She was waiting, not just for the last train, but for someone who might not come. Daniel had promised he would meet her there, at the same spot where they first crossed paths months ago. Back then, Emma had dropped her scarf, and he had chased after her through the rush of commuters, smiling as he handed it back. That smile had been the beginning of everything. Now, she wondered if it was also the end. The clock above the station ticked closer to midnight. She told herself she wouldn't cry if he didn't show up. They had argued days ago, words sharp enough to wound, yet soft enough to linger in regret. She had walked away, thinking he wouldn't follow. But in her heart, she hoped he still would. The train's headlights pierced the night, growing larger until the screech of wheels filled the platform. The door slid open. Passengers spilled out, scattering quickly. Emma's chest tightened when she didn't see him among them. Then, just before the doors began to close, Daniel appeared, breathless, his hair damp from running. He spotted her instantly. "Emma," he said, his voice uneven, "I was scared you wouldn't wait." Her eyes stung, though she managed a trembling smile. "I almost didn't." For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the hum of the departing train. Then Daniel stepped closer, gently taking the book from her hands. "I don't care about the fight," he whispered. "I care about us. I care about you." The walls Emma had built in her heart cracked under the weight of his words. She exhaled slowly, the tension leaving her shoulders. "I'm tired of running away," she admitted. Daniel reached for her hand, and when their fingers intertwined, it felt like coming home. Under the dim glow of the station lights, the last train rolled out of sight, but neither of them moved. They didn't need it. For the first time in days, time itself seemed to pause, leaving only the warmth of two souls finding their way back to each other. And in that quiet place, with no one else around, Emma realized something she had always known but had been too afraid to say: this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Whispers beneath the lanterns. The annual Lantern Festival had always been Lily's favorite night of the year. The little riverside town would glow with hundreds of paper lanterns, each carrying silent wishes into the starry sky. This year, however, felt different. She wasn't sure if she was excited or nervous. Because Daniel was coming. They had been friends since childhood, inseparable until life pulled them in different directions. She had stayed in their small town to help her family's bakery, while he had moved to the city, chasing his dream of becoming an architect. Years had passed with only letters and the occasional phone call between them. And now, after all that time, he had returned. Lily spotted him near the water, holding a lantern in his hands. He looked taller, more confident, but his smile, the smile she remembered from when they were 10 years old, was still the same. Lily, he said softly, as though testing her name on his lips again. Daniel, she replied, trying to steady her voice. They stood side by side, their lanterns reflecting in the water. For a long moment, silence hung between them, filled only by the chatter of the crowd and the soft splash of oars in the river. Do you remember, Daniel asked finally, the last festival before I left? Lily nodded. She remembered too well. They had made a wish together, promising to meet again by the river one day. I never told you what I wished for, he continued. His voice was lower now, almost a whisper. I wished that no matter how far I went, I'd always find my way back to you. Her breath caught. The lantern in her hands trembled slightly. And you? He asked, turning to her. What did you wish for? Lily met his gaze. His eyes held the same warmth that had once lit up her childhood, and now, she realized, it lit up her heart. I wished for you to come back, she said simply. The lanterns around them floated upward, carrying countless hopes into the dark sky. Daniel reached for her hand, hesitant at first, then firm when she didn't pull away. Seems our wishes finally came true, he whispered. Beneath the glow of drifting lanterns, with the river shimmering beside them, Lily and Daniel stood hand in hand, two hearts, once separated, now found again under the same sky.